This screencast looks at the final thing that you might be asked to do with analogies, and that's to explain whether the analogy is strong enough to support the conclusion drawn in the argument. Remember, an analogy is there to support a claim or a conclusion, or possibly an intermediate conclusion. And this question is asking you, does the analogy give enough to support actually what's being said? Now, there's several things that you could look at. First of all, whether the actual two things that are being compared are similar with each other or not, and if they're similar in a relevant way, maybe the number of similarities and dissimilarities, the similarities and differences. You know, if there's lots of similarities, then it's probably going to make it quite a good analogy, or if there's lots of differences, it might make it weak. And whether the actual things being compared have got the shared properties are the same or they're different. So in this case, remember we've said that the conclusion here is that we should reduce ecstasy to be a class B drug, and here's the analogy, looking at horse riding being legal and causing death, and taking ecstasy that should be illegal. Now, you should be able to see in this case that actually the conclusion has not been supported by the analogy. So overall it's a weak analogy because it does not support the conclusion it's linked to. The conclusion said that we should reduce the class of ecstasy to class B because it's currently class A, whereas the analogy refers to making it totally legal. That would mean it would be no class at all. These are not the same thing, so the analogy is weak. So actually look at what the conclusion is. Is the analogy providing enough to back up that conclusion? Is it relevant? Is it the same thing? Is it talking about the same thing? Or have they just put in an analogy there, a kind of illustration that goes no way to supporting the conclusion itself?